right, we got an SL550 here in the home garage today. Not doing this at work. I've got a little bit of experience on these, but I don't know that I've ever actually worked on a 550 before. I am kind of familiar with these V8s though. Putting in coils and plugs for somebody, I'm not seeing an actual fault, like a no misfire. I think maybe there was a code stored and they wanted to get the coils in there. They wanted to do coils and plugs. I always try to do plugs whenever we do coils. If there's been a misfire, I think it's always a good idea. Was hoping to go through and show like the thought process behind the fault tracing for this. I don't have any fault codes right now and it's not misfiring, so I'm not really going to be able to show how we would trace that. Typically would do like we have a misfire on 3, then we'd swap it over to swap a coil over, see if the misfire follows. I'm going to get better light on here in a little bit, but this one ought to be fun. Mercedes 6-cylinder, not my favorite motor to work on, but not my least favorite either. All right, we got those up on the top. It's essentially just air pipes and the air filter and all that. So got all of that off. You can really get to the motor a lot easier now. I could have sworn the last time I messed with one of these on the spark plugs, the ECM was in the way over there. I'm sure it was just a different car, different design, but I was kind of dreading it because of that. This really is, this is going to be pretty simple. So we do have here, this one's already been replaced, this coil has. You've got all your coils here. And now once I get one out, we're going to go over coils a little bit better. But, coil on plug, pretty standard for most cars these days. Took the place of the old distributors and rotor buttons and all that crap that was such a pain in the butt. But we're gonna once I get one of these out, we're gonna go over it a little bit more and see if I can maybe even crack one open, show you guys what they look like on the inside, go over how they work and why they fail, and then we'll get the plugs out and we'll keep on moving along. Well, I found our first problem. I don't know what we're gonna do about this yet, but we'll figure it out. Looks like this connector was broken, and it looks like they decided to epoxy it on back in there. So that's almost like an RTV they used in there. So maybe we can get that out. Looks like they did the same there. Hopefully it's not going to be too big of a problem. We'll find out. All right, we were able to get it out without too much trouble. I just kind of had to pry on a little bit. It's like it's definitely like an RTV. That's a new trick to me. I don't know, some of you old Mercedes guys might see that a lot. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's not a problem. Shoot, it looks like I've got multiple of them on here with it. Who knows? When I go to put them back together, I may not be able to get those connectors to stick. Might be epoxy in them back end too, or RTV in the back end too. Not something I've seen before, but again, I've got pretty minimal experience on these motors. Oh, maybe it's normal. Well, he saw me wondering about that RTV, so the experts can come over to give me his advice. Brian, what do you think, bud? What you think? Is he gonna be okay? Is he gonna be okay? I think he says RTV will work just fine. All right, so we got one of the coils out here. Really nothing at all to taking these out. 2 screws. Screw there, unplug them, pop them out. I'm not going to bother showing how to do that. It's super easy. So back in the day, they used to use one big coil, typically ran off of the camshaft, and that coil would have a distributor. As the rotor spun around and made contact with the different points, it would send that voltage to the spark plugs through the plug wires. Spark plugs take a lot of voltage to make a spark. I don't remember the number. I could probably Google it, but I mean, you could probably Google it too. But it's more than 12. 12 volts isn't enough to make a spark plug. So here you've got 2 windings, and I'm not going to pretend like I remember everything about how they work. I was taught how they worked. I learned how they worked. And after a while, you realize you really don't need to know how they work. But there's 2 windings in here. It's involved with powering one winding and then cutting the power. When you do that, it causes a voltage spike. That voltage spike fires the spark plugs. We figured out a while back that putting an individual coil on top of each plug made a whole lot more sense than putting one big coil. You know, it was usually mounted up here in the back somewhere, and running it off a rotor off of the you had to worry about ignition, timing, all that stuff. It's all computer done now. So and it seemed like those rotor buttons went out constantly. And again, this is all stuff as old as I may be. It is really before my time, the rotors and the distributors and all that. So I never really learned those all that well, but easy enough to take out. Looking at this, I'm not going to bother with cutting it open. You'd find a couple of windings inside there, and I might find an illustration online to stick on the video so you can see, but I'm not going to bust this thing open. The owner of the car did ask while we were in here if we would to do spark plugs. I don't know what the official answer, or the official mechanic answer on that is. My answer is always, if you're getting in there anyway, do spark plugs. If you've had a misfire, just do spark plugs. And I don't like to do anything one at a time, like the one coil that was causing an issue. I don't know which coil that is. Again, we couldn't pull codes up, but let's say it's this coil. So we decide we're going to go cheap. We're going to save money. We're just going to replace that coil. This coil right here is the same age as this one. It's been in identical conditions and identical driving styles. It has had the same life as this one. Why do we think that one's going to last much longer, or that one, or that one? Just do them all. I mean, I've been there. I had an old 5-cylinder Volvo coming back from Atlanta, started misfiring really bad. It was a coil. We'll say it was coil number 2. I don't remember anymore which one it was, but I replaced just the one. I could do it really cheap. Got it to the shop. 1 week later, I'm replacing coil number 4. The next week, I'm replacing coil number 3. The next week, I'm replacing coil number 5. I've just seen it happen too many times. Just do it. Just fix it all at once. Fix it. If you don't have time to fix it right, you don't have time to fix it twice. That's my old man saying, but it's true. So I'm going to probably jump ahead till we've got the plugs out. If I've got the plugs done, not a whole lot of point showing all that. There's your spark plug down there at the bottom of the hole. But we'll go over how that system all works once we've got the new plugs in. All right, so we've got the coils out. I'm realizing, as I said earlier, I'm doing this from home. I'm not at the shop. I don't keep a lot of tools at home. I don't have a spark plug socket for this car. I'll be at the shop tomorrow, so I'm going to bring one home, finish it up then. But just to kind of go over this system, so we have the coils here. Each one has a primary and a secondary winding inside. As I said before, I used to know how all that worked. I don't anymore. It's just not something that really is ever relevant. But by charging a wiring and then cutting power to it, it causes the other wiring to have a spike in voltage, which is enough to set off the spark plugs. I believe on this vehicle that is your engine control module. Hopefully I'm right. I'm sure I'll hear about it if I'm not. But it's all computer controlled. There would be a camshaft position sensor on this vehicle somewhere. I should have looked at it before I started before I started recording, but I didn't. That's probably it right there. And it's going to tell that computer when it needs these plugs to fire based on the cam position. It's going to send these a signal. They're going to ignite the spark plugs down in those holes, combust the fuel, continue the process over and over and over again. It's a pretty simple system, not a whole lot to it. But if you've got anytime you have a misfire, if you can pull a code for a cylinder, let's say in this case, let's say we had pulled a code for a misfire for this cylinder. We'll say it's cylinder 1. I'm not actually sure if it is or not. Typically what I would do is take this coil out, swap it with this coil, take this plug out, swap it with this plug, start it back up again, read the codes again, see if that misfire moved. Now, hopefully that misfire has moved to either that coil, that cylinder or that cylinder. And if that's the case, I would recommend, if it was the plug that it followed, you can just do plugs. If it was the coil, I would recommend doing plugs and coils. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully the misfire didn't stay. If it does stay, then you're going to start looking at compression tests, see what your compression is. And it could be an injector. But you're going to go from there if it doesn't move. But typically they move, and it's a fairly easy fix for something like that. All right, we're getting these spark plugs and these coils put in. One other thing that I should mention, if you're not used to doing spark plugs and such, the spark plug gap. Now, almost all spark plugs now are set up with or pre-gapped, and they already have that little gap in the electrode that you see there. If they don't, you're going to have to look up the manufacturer specifications. You're going to have to get a gap tool and set the gap. Now, I've been doing it for 20 years. I don't know that I've maybe set gap on spark plugs twice in my career. It's not something that you have to do very often, but always be careful with the spark plugs. Make sure that gap is set. If they've been dropped and they land on the ends, they can smash down and ruin and eliminate that gap. And then also, it's always a good idea not to drop them straight down into the hole. This socket will kind of hold them. You can put them in and then get them started that way. That way they don't fall down the tube, the spark plug tube, and smash the gap. Also, always want to use a spark plug socket. You can see there's a piece inside that hugs the spark plug, protects it while you're tightening it down so the porcelain on them do not crack. And that is really it. That is all there is to plugs and coils. Hopefully there was something that you didn't know in here. Pretty simple job though. Not a big deal at all. Thanks. We're also going to do air filters on this vehicle. The owner asked us, well, I'm assuming we're going to do air filters on it. I don't remember actually discussing that with the owner, but there's new ones in there, so we're going to put them in. I always forget where the air filters are at in these. I feel like Mercedes did a really good job hiding them. This piece that sits on top of the motor, you take it off, it doesn't seem like there's much, and then you get to looking at it, and you got two boxes. You have two air filters. It has two intakes, or two air inlets. There's one on each side that I've already taken out. You can see the pieces of them here. The air filters go in there. I'm going to pop those off here in just a second, and we'll see what that looks like. I'll tell you, I've severely underestimated doing jobs at my house. Again, typically I don't do it. I don't keep a lot of tools here. I work on cars 40 plus hours a week. I don't typically do it at home. I don't really have any desire to do it at home. This is a family member, a friend of ours, and it's not much, and it's a pretty easy job to go in there. So I just wanted to help out, and I thought it might actually get me off my butt making videos for the channel. So I have spent more time today though looking for tools to just get through this job. Finally got a setup that'll work to get these air filters out. One thing I do want to point out, when you're using a drill, and this is not typically a drill I would use for work. This is my house drill, but they have the same concept. These numbers, this is basically a torque number. Pay attention to that number. You don't need it set on anything high for something like this. If you have this thing turned up all the way, taking them out won't be a problem, but when you go to put them back in, turn it up just a little bit more than that. When you go to put them back in, it will destroy this plastic. It'll just rip it to pieces. So that is something that I've seen a lot of newer guys struggle with, or not know. I mean, shoot, I didn't know. I broke all kinds of stuff because nobody ever told me, hey, turn that number down on your drill. Yeah, easy enough. Take those what was it, 4 bolts, 4 screws out, and then there's your air filter. Might help if I put it on the camera. I'm gonna get some of those glasses, some of those Ray-Ban glasses to do this with. Make life a lot easier. But I'm gonna clean that dirt and crud out of there. It's easy enough on these to just dump them out. And then we've got a new air filter. I've been kind of debating, like internally, of how basic I want the channel to be. How do I want to assume that people know some stuff? Do I want to assume that they don't know anything? So I really haven't decided yet. So air filters, they do exactly what they say they do. They filter the air. So this is on the inlet pipe. You've got 2 on these. I'm not going to film the second one. You saw me on the first one. You've got 2 inlet pipes here. When you put this back on, the air, this is flipped over, so it sits on top of the motor. The air comes in through here, the new air goes through here, runs through this filter, and then comes out here, which goes into that pipe and goes into the engine. It just keeps your air clean. It's when you're driving down the road, you've got dust, you've got pollen, you've got road debris, you've got all kinds of stuff that could get potentially sucked up into your motor. And a lot of times you'll have things like, this vehicle has a screen right here that'll catch big particles. It won't catch the little ones. And if you're sucking that crap up into your motor, you're killing it. It is a very basic maintenance item, maybe the most basic maintenance item, and it's something that some people just refuse to do, refuse to replace. You're taking years off of your engine. And this car, I don't know what year this car is. I didn't look before I started, but it is not a new car, and it is in really good shape. It is very clean. It has been very well maintained. You notice that air filter I took out was not very dirty. That's all the dirt that came off the top of it. But you notice it is not very dirty. It has been replaced. But I always say, I wouldn't necessarily buy an air filter all that, that often. I try to do it every 20,000 miles. But if you've ever got one and you're like, oh, should I put this in now? Yeah, just put it in. A clean air filter is never a bad thing. So again, haven't really decided the level I'm going to do these videos at. But if I think explaining an air filter is too much or where I want to be at, I don't know yet.